All right. Let me make sure I've got everything set up correctly. Fantastic. Hi there. My name is Lori Howard, and we're here today to talk about how to land your right fit executive role with more pay and more impact, especially in today's market, without constantly feeling like you're struggling to be seen and without feeling like you have to turn your job search into its own full-time job. I'm an executive career transformation and leadership consultant, and I'll tell you a little bit more about me in a moment. And now I need to find, lost one of my windows here. There it is. There we are. Okay. So I'm going to I am going to do my best to answer questions. So if you can save your questions to the end or feel free to drop them in the chat, that would be great. So let's start by talking about who this training is for. It is for any leader level person in tech. So senior managers, directors, VPs, SVPs, if you're looking for a roadmap to be seen as an executive level leader, it's for CIOs, CTOs, CDOs, and the rest of the C-suite alphabet soup that we have out there. If you're looking for an opportunity to challenge you to create an impact that makes you proud while getting paid what you deserve, this is a great spot for you. If you're a tech leader, just ready to establish your reputation and brand within your company and within your industry, this will be a good spot for you. So let me tell you a little bit about me first. I started out in tech. I realized a few years ago that my tech career spanned a big portion of the third industrial revolution. Not sure how I feel about that, but that was true. And I graduated with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I had a minor in computer science, and I was this close to getting a second major, but I didn't want to take the extra arts courses. So I just didn't. I worked then as a developer, programmer, project manager, PMO leader. I worked in quality assurance, and I worked my way up to vice president. And I was reporting to a CIO, CTO of our organization when I decided I wanted to switch gears and do something new. Now, throughout my tech career, coworkers, friends, and staff, both people who reported to me and people who reported to other managers, would seek me out to help them with their careers, their career progression, their job search, job challenges, and I was able to help them get results. So in 2006, I left my corporate role in tech and I signed my first client. And in 2007, I launched my executive coaching business full time, and I've been doing this ever since. Now, based on my own direct experiences, gaining visibility, getting promoted, navigating corporate politics, along with the experiences helping the people who had come to me, I ultimately developed and tested a strategy and a methodology to help executives and senior level leaders in tech to identify and land their right fit next role, their perfect next job. And so now it's been over 15 years that I have successfully helped hundreds, possibly thousands, because I don't really track the numbers that closely, of clients and leaders and executives in tech roles and industries to find and land their epic next job. So here's what we're going to cover today. Before we begin, I'm going to give you a quick job market update based on the latest research. That is what's happening right now this week. We're going to talk about the exact 3 steps to help you find and land your perfect executive role. We're going to talk about the 3 most deadly mistakes that I see executive job seekers make and the type of search that will get you success. We're going to talk about what you need to know about to effectively market yourself and your experience and how to do that without feeling like it's another job so that you can attract right fit roles and opportunities. And then we're going to talk about the biggest interview mistake that I see people make and one thing you can do to turn your interviews around and turn them into offer generation conversations. And then we're going to talk about what the next steps could look like for you. So let's give you a quick job market update, which is really the real reason that you need this training now. So since the pandemic, the job market, especially in tech, has been incredibly volatile. And by volatile, I mean it is constantly changing. How you find a job, how you land a job, what you have to do to put yourself out there keeps adjusting. Almost, sometimes it seems like it's changing monthly. Certainly, it's changing quarterly, and this year has been no different. So let me give you an update on where we're at now. So this year was the year. So up until this year, more or less, the the automation and ATS systems and LinkedIn algorithm were things that you needed to know and understand and feed really to get matched with your right fit roles. Recruiters were relying very heavily on those, um, and talent source agencies were relying heavily on those to find candidates. And that was true all the way up through the C-suite. Now, this year, things started to shift a little bit. The adoption and embracing of AI and generative AI, along with the ability for more and more people who don't have tech skills, who aren't coders, to be able to develop apps and do things and automate things, meant we took a process that was kind of sort of working and kind of broken, which is the ATS matching process, and then we scaled it. So we took a slightly broken system and made it more intense. So you have on the applicant matching side, people misusing and misunderstanding and abusing AI in terms of selecting candidates. And then on the applicant side, you have people creating apps to apply for jobs. What that left us with by the end of this year is people who were on the hiring side, HR people, recruiters, acquisition, talent acquisition, were finding that there were so many candidates who had applied, and many of them were not real candidates. They weren't legit. They either were misrepresented or just not even real people. There's been a lot more use of AI to support and help candidates as they apply. It's kind of like kindergarten, right? It only takes one kid to ruin it for the whole class. And that's kind of what we have here. We have a bunch of people who did this, and it made a mess of everything. By the end of the year, which is where we are now, what's happening is recruiters, the good part is recruiters and hiring managers, especially for more senior roles and executive level positions, are now relying once again on their human connections. They're looking to talk to people directly. That means the hiring process might slow down a bit. Um, I'm seeing more, even if you do apply for a job online, more and more companies are starting to say, hey, you get the automated message that says, hey, this is going to take us a while because we have humans sifting through the applicants because they're trying to find a right fit. Recruiters, external recruiters, are now more open to having conversations with you at the outset rather than waiting. They're open to connecting with you outside of the job application process. People, and then the last piece, this is the piece that you need to really understand, which is your professional network and the quality and level of your professional network has become more important than ever in terms of identifying and finding right fit roles. So people talk a lot about the hidden job market. The hidden job market really is just the job opportunities that you don't know how to find. It's not a big secret. It's identifying, it's not really as secretive. It is not through the online application systems. It's through people. And for you as a senior level leader or executive, it means people at and above your level in the organization that you're looking for or that you're looking at. It's increased the importance of identifying target companies and profiles for target companies. Because if you don't know who you're going for, you're not going to be able to target your network in that. It means that if you haven't been building your network all the way along, or haven't been up-leveling it as you've advanced, it means you could end up with a bit of some challenges. And I've seen clients do that. There are ways to fix that and ways to turn that around, and it requires some specific strategies. But that's part of where we're at right now. The job market since the election has definitely begun to open up. Companies are hiring. I'm seeing companies actively interviewing and hiring right now. Yes, even in December. Since Thanksgiving, I've seen a spike. So if you're not finding things, you're not getting interviews, then there are some things you might want to look at to change. And we'll talk about some of those things, and hopefully today's class will help you. So that's where we're at right now. My expectation is through the first quarter, hiring is going to be pretty good. If you're not seeing postings, that's not the same thing. right? So you will look for postings and still apply and add the connections in there. Connect with hiring managers, connect with recruiters, connect with the talent acquisition person in HR at the organizations so that you can get someone that you can talk to, you can see how you're qualified. All right, so that's a quick update on where things are. It's actually very optimistic. All the projections I've seen in terms of corporate planning for next year, especially tech, means we're moving forward. Companies are hiring. They are investing in AI. That's not a surprise. They're continuing to invest in cloud. That's not a surprise. And cybersecurity. So if you need to get education, experience, or knowledge in any of those things, now's the time to do that. So, okay, that's the update. And again, like I said, I'll take questions at the end, but that's where we're at right now. There's a lot of potential, a lot of possibility, but you have to be doing things in the right way. There's also a lot of competition, but that's very rarely not the case. So let's talk about the biggest mistake that I see most people make when it comes to the job search. That's thinking about the job search only when you're ready to change jobs or change companies. If you wait until then, it is costly. And I have conversations every week with people who are paying the price. First thing that happens, you find yourself, and if you've been promoted within your organization, you can quickly and easily find yourself at an executive level without an executive level network. Remember, your network, your connections need to be people at and above your level to help you with your job search, to help you with opportunities. It is more difficult for more junior people to help you. And that's just the way things are right now. It's not that they're not valuable, it's that they have a different value. If they can connect you with someone more senior, that's useful. And so you want to be constantly and consistently building out your network and expanding and growing that. Now, what else happens? You find yourself unprepared for sudden terminations, layoffs, or reorgs. We see it all the time. It's no longer an excuse to go, well, I didn't know this was going to happen. It can happen at any time. We see it happen to a lot of people, right? There are mergers, acquisitions, sudden shifts in financial decision making. This year was all about optimizing every quarter. So companies would quarterly review the financial results of decisions they had made, investments they had made, and then make a very quick decision what to keep, what to cut. And we'd see people get laid off. And then suddenly new people would get brought in and hired. Sometimes if you have a change in your C-suite, there's changes in staff to follow. So it is expensive to not be ready for that to happen. The other thing that it can cost you is you can just lose touch with the marketplace. And as rapidly as the job market changes, it's very easy to get out of sync and not current with market trends and needs. So the other thing is your job search skills just get plain rusty. You're not ready to compete with other seekers, especially with the introduction and the sort of, I think of as abuse of AI this year. More and more people have leveled up their game in some ways, and you need to be really careful that you don't sound just like them. Okay, so in this world of rapid change, as an executive leader, you don't want to be caught unprepared. You know this when it comes to your job, when it comes to the things you do and the things you're responsible for. This is also true for your career. The good news, there's a better way. There's a way to manage this, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So the first thing you need is a career strategy and a plan so that you always have a network of leaders ready to support you, that you are always ready for the next opportunity when it appears and you aren't caught off guard, so that you have an established, known reputation as a leader in demand. And that the reality is, if you master this strategy and plan now, future searches, future opportunities, future hunts for the right next role will be short, fast, and easy because you will have the right skills fresh and ready to go in the job search, in networking, and interviewing to ensure that you are able to confidently land the right role for you. So what are the steps to land your right fit executive role with more pay and more impact? We're going to get into those right now. There are 3 things you need. 1, clarity on what exactly is your right fit next role. A lot of people come to me and just sort of think, well, I can do a lot of things, but they have not given this a lot of thought. First, you want to get clear. Second, you need your own UVP, which is an acronym for unique value proposition. How do you articulate what sets you apart? What makes you unique? What is your unique value that you bring to an organization? Do you know what that is? Do you know how you do that? Do you know how to articulate it? And finally, with those things, you then need an optimized executive job search strategy. So let's talk about why you need these things. First of all, without clarity, you won't get where you want to go. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else, as Yogi Berra said. Also, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So what does that mean? We'll talk about that in a minute. Without your own unique value proposition, you will be indistinguishable from your competition. You will blend into the background of applicants, and that's what's happening. So people, when AI, they first started to play with it, could set themselves apart with their tools and how they talk about themselves. Every profile today starts to look very similar, and I can tell who's used AI to help them generate that because all the language gets very much the same. The words are the same. And this is what happens. People are indistinguishable from each other. Everybody blends into the background. And most important, the result of that is you get fewer opportunities. And that's not what I want for you. I want you to have power and choice in your career and to always be in the decision-making seat and not waiting to be picked or chosen. So without an optimized strategy, let's go back to Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland for a moment. I was really into Lewis Carroll at the moment that I did this presentation. So Alice says, would you tell me, please, which way I have to go from here? The cat says, that depends a good deal on where you want to get to. Alice says, well, I don't much care where. The cat says, no, it doesn't matter which way you go. Alice says, so long as I get somewhere. And the cat says, oh, you're sure to do that if only you walk long enough. Now, what's the point that I'm trying to make? Without an optimized strategy, it will take you more time and more effort to achieve the career and job goals you've set for yourself, if you ever achieve them at all. And that's what makes me saddest, the thought that you might miss the thing that you most want, all because you didn't spend some time thinking about what is it. So what are the exact steps you need to take? Well, there are 3 things to guarantee your right fit executive role. Number 1, it's all about clarity. You need to identify what is your perfect fit next job. Where is it that you will excel, that you will make the impact that makes you feel proud, and you will receive high value compensation. You need to know what that is. You need to know a prototype of that, like what is the ideal, and so that you can match that as a blueprint to the things you're evaluating. And where you excel includes company and company profile, as well as job. We'll talk about that more shortly. Then you need a UVP. You want to dominate the job market through clear brand differentiation. At this level, you are responsible for defining, identifying, and showcasing your brand. Your brand lets people know who you are, what they will get if they hire you, what kind of leader you are. And that becomes important to make clear. And then with the optimized job search, you will know that you'll be able to confidently network, interview, and negotiate for the best offers. So let's talk about step 1, and let's get into these things a little more deeply. How exactly do you identify your perfect next role and know without a shadow of a doubt what are the right roles for you? Well, first, let's talk about the mistake that I see many, many people make all the way up through the C-suite. This mistake is applying to every job available or every job you think you would qualify for. This is a mistake you make when you apply to every job you find. Your intention typically is to be open to possibilities. I could do this. I could do that. I'm qualified for this. Unfortunately, what happens is your job search becomes unclear and you can come across as uncertain and unsure about what you're really capable of doing, the value you really bring, and what is it you really want to do. People get confused when they look at those resumes and applications. The message you send is you don't know what you want. And at this level, that is the fastest way to come across as sort of desperate for a job and miss out on good opportunities. So it gets the opposite result of what you want. In today's job market, Companies and hiring managers rely totally on the job seeker to prove and demonstrate at every stage that you are the perfect candidate for the job. The entire recruiting effort, hiring effort is designed around this, whether you're looking at the systems, recruiter interviews, and hiring manager interviews. To get any job today, you have to make the case for yourself as the best candidate, both from a I want this job perspective and I can do this job. So let me talk to you about Roger. Roger, now you will notice that all the client case studies I share here, I have all the client names in caps, or in quotes, because I take my client confidentiality very seriously. So I have rubbed out some more the finer details that would let you track down who Roger is, but the core facts are the same. Roger was a VP of technology. He worked in his current company for over 10 years. He was looking for a change, something new, ready to move on. His goal was to show up as open to possibilities. Now, as an experienced strategic leader and decision maker for technology solutions, and he was very good at this. He was very experienced. His approach was he quickly put together a resume using kind of what I think of as your work history as autobiography. Here are all the things I did as it unfolded through time. He talked about things he was responsible for, achievements, contributions, applied to everything that he thought he could do. Expected hiring managers and recruiters would read through and decide where he'd best fit. And that's the mistake. He waited for responses to applications, submissions, and recruiter outreach, and nothing happened. He had no interviews. He had limited outreach from recruiters, and most of them were for more junior level roles. And even his peers would give mismatched opportunities. The outcome, Roger was frustrated. He was disappointed. He was confused, understandably. He felt like he was wasting his time. Why am I even looking? I can't find anything. So after we took a look at his resume and LinkedIn profile together, it was clear what was going on. You have to remember, and we all know this, we've heard this statistic for years and so many times. Your resume and LinkedIn profile have maybe 7 to 10 seconds to convey what you offer, where you thrive, and what role you're best suited for. If that can't be found in a quick scan, hiring managers typically will never see it. And you'll be passed over before you're even considered, and that's what was happening to Roger. He wanted options, he wanted choices, but instead of showing up as open to new things, he showed up as ambiguous and he got stuck. So, what's the solution? Execute a targeted job search based on what aligns with your career goals. If you do this, you will further your career every step because you have strategically planned and intentionally planned for your next job instead of going in blind. By being intentional, you'll increase your odds of landing a role you enjoy, where you find satisfaction, where you have a bigger impact, and better financial rewards. By not applying to every job available, and I know it seems counterintuitive, but the reality is you don't waste your time, your efforts are focused, and your chances of success are substantially higher. So let's talk about what it means to get clarity. The first thing you need to do is identify your perfect next role so you can know what the right roles are for you. What do I want you to get clarity on? First thing is your key strengths and superpowers, along with what's most important to you in your work. So what are you really good at? What are the things you do that make you successful? And what's important to you about the work you do and the company you work for? If you don't know these, you'll land on a wrong fit role so fast. What are your pragmatic priorities? You want to know what all your priorities are and how they rank so that you know what to demand and what to negotiate. That can be things like location. It can be things like team size. It can be budget. There are many, many things you want to sort out. It can be benefits. Then you want to map out your target company. Who exactly is it you want to work for? Ideally, you'll start with a list of names and then be able to extrapolate from there companies like those. You want to know who they are. What do they do? Are there industries you're interested in? Is there a leadership culture you're interested in? At this level, leadership culture becomes more important than many other things. What about work styles, organizational culture elements? Think about all those things. What do they do? What do they create? Is that something that interests you? What do they value? You need to understand all of those things. And I always recommend my clients create a target company profile as well, so that we can match them with companies in the real world. Think about the size of the organization, the growth stage. Where are the places that you thrive, and where do you want to be? Now, these are the 5 questions of clarity I ask all my clients to do at some point. 1, I always think of the job about title last. Yes, title is important, but it's not, it's very difficult. Job titles are all over the place. We've all seen it. From company to company, they're just all over the map. So first, map out what are the activities you want to spend your time on, daily, weekly, monthly. What are the things you want to spend your time doing? Who do you want to spend your time with? What roles do you want to be working with? What decisions do you want to make? That will lead to the level of your position, depending on the kind of decisions you want to be making. Where do you want to do all this? That's geographically, as well as could be the company. So anything, it could be cultural elements. What impact do you want to create? And that could be on your team, on the company, on the people the company provides services and support to or products to. It could be on the industry, the community. What's important to you? Start with these. Now, this is what happens when you get clarity. Now you can create a target company profile and job descriptions, target job descriptions, and ensure that every job you apply for is a good fit. That will help you get the best offers from right fit companies. Take control of your career with confidence while getting recognized and rewarded for your achievements in these new organizations. You can land a job you enjoy and create an impact that makes you proud because you've thought about what you want up front. And you can earn the income you deserve with the daily satisfaction you seek. So here I have 2 client stories, a couple of clients I worked with. Pat, when I worked with him, he was a senior level, senior staff, principal engineer, possibly. I'm trying to remember at this point. He was a senior level tech leader. And he was just unhappy. He couldn't figure out why he didn't like what he did. He liked what he did, but he couldn't stand his job. And he was kind of conflicted and confused. So the first things we focused on right out of the gate, and you can see that in his own words, were to get really clear about what he wanted, what were his target roles, what were his right fit roles, what was his target organization. And then the second thing was to really talk about what he was capable of and what he had already done. As a result of that, we reworked his positioning, his resume, his LinkedIn profile, all the tools. He was able to reach out to his network and have conversations, and ultimately got a job that would have fallen into daydream territory before. He didn't try for that because he kept waiting for it to come to him without seeking it out, without aiming for that and positioning himself for that. One of the things he learned is that he didn't like being the only expert. He wanted to work with with peers who were also experts. And once he found that, he loved his work, and he has had a thriving career since. Let's look at Robert. When Robert came to me, he just knew he didn't want to do what he was already doing. Something else, something different, but he didn't know what. So the first thing we did is get a clear picture of what are his strengths, skills, superpowers, and values, and what are the things he did uniquely well. Then we were able to translate that into his tools, and that quickly gave him interviews and got him confidence to express himself better before. Those are his words. And he quickly landed a new role, made a slight career pivot, nothing dramatic, and has been successful and happy ever since. So let's talk about step 2. How do you dominate the job market through clear brand differentiation? Well, let's look at the mistake that people make. Without one, what happens? Most executives I encounter think their years of experience and job titles will speak on for them. They underestimate the impact of the algorithms and methodologies. And often they don't know how to clearly articulate what sets them apart. Especially in tech, I find that to be particularly true. They know what they do. They don't really know how to talk about the value they bring. The impact of that is that your value as an executive leader becomes a secret. People won't figure it out for you. And that means no referral leads from your network, no hidden job market leads, no promotions and weak interviewing skills. The reality is, remember, you are the best person to stand up for yourself and communicate your value. And if you don't know how to do that, then now's the time to figure that out. So let's talk quickly about headlines that don't show brand differentiation. And I see a lot of these on LinkedIn, right? You do a quick search. I see job titles: CTO, Chief Technology Officer, CIO, CTO, CDO. So this last person is clearly understands that the titles might be different. But you can tell me the difference between these two and anything about what else they might do, what their special strength is, what their focus is. I have no idea with these headlines on LinkedIn. So how do you establish professional brand differentiation? Well, you have to develop your own professional, I call it a positioning statement. It is related to the branding statement, which is typically a one sentence, one line introduction. The positioning statement is maybe 2 to 3 sentences, takes a couple seconds. You need to be able to articulate that clearly and concisely. It needs to tell people, first of all, who you help. What kinds of organizations do you help? What do you help them? What problems do you help them solve? Or what results do you help them achieve? That's where you start to get to value. And then how do you do that? Most people know how to talk about the how. I do that by transforming technology, doing cloud migration, integrating AI. That's where all the keywords come in. The part before the value is, what's the impact on the business? That's the value. That's the impact you have. So you want to be able to articulate this clearly and concisely. Who you help, what you help them do, problem solved, results achieved, and how you do it. And then ideally in that positioning statement, I like to weave in a passion statement. What do you particularly enjoy about this? What is it that you love about this kind of work? What are you passionate about? That matters to a lot of people. So, and then you want to be able to articulate that clearly and concisely. 3 to 5 lines on a resume, super short sentences. You want to use that, all your job search materials, resume, LinkedIn, cover letter, in your conversations at networking events or asking people for help, in your interviews, right? These are all the places that you want to use this. So what is a professional positioning statement? It's built on a clear, unique value proposition, shows and tells what differentiates you from your peers and what's of most value to the organization in which you lead and serve. This is how you show you stand out from your competitors, because you know the value you bring, you know the impact you have, and you know how you do that. Without a differentiator, it's easy to get lost in a sea of applicants, 10 times more difficult to get noticed and get interviews. This is something you have to develop with your own intention and own understanding of yourself. ChatGPT, any of the AIs, they can't do it for you. And if you use those, you run the risk of ending up generating something that sounds like everybody else. So with your positioning in place, you have a clear, cohesive professional brand, because that statement you will then make sure is expanded upon in your resume, expanded upon in LinkedIn. That will help you decide which stories you're going to prepare to tell in your interviews, what you're going to say at networking events, what jobs you're going to see. You will have a clear, cohesive brand which attracts recruiters and employers to you, because you know what you want and what you're capable of. You and your UVB will no longer be a secret. So let's look at these headlines again, right? These were the ones with no brand differentiation. Let's take a quick look at what can happen if somebody starts to just lace in, if they've thought about this. So here are the same kinds of roles, more expanded headline, and this is just from LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you get 220 characters roughly to put in your headline, and you can use that to showcase your brand so that if someone quickly scanning this or system searching it will be able to find relevant things. So I look at this first person. We have CTO, Technology Strategy Innovation R&D Executive. That tells me that they're likely to be working on new things just because of that phrasing. Data management expertise. I now know they know about data. Drive growth and scalability. That's the result and impact they have. Build and inspire high-performing teams. That's good to know. A lot of people do that today, but it's still good to know building and inspiring is interesting. A collaborative approach. So they're not the opposite of a collaborative approach would be an entrepreneurial approach. That means give me the stuff and I will take care of it by myself. This is I'm going to work with my peers and work with whomever I need to, the executives or the board, to get things done. Enterprise solutions. Companies, I see the enterprise-wide enterprise solutions a lot more in job postings right now. There's a difference between solutions for the enterprise and a whole company and for a specific product or service or solving an individual problem. Driving revenue. Oh, okay. So growth and scalability, I think of getting bigger, right? And then revenue means more money coming in. So that's very helpful to know, right? So now I understand that what this CTO is doing. There's something that's externally facing because we've got revenue growth and scalability is often internal. Oh goodness, excuse me, my allergies. Okay, the next one, CIO, CTO, slightly different than CTO, technology thought leader, either in the industry or in their organization. So I'll put a pin in that. Drive business but that means that they're thinking about things, looking ahead and advising. That's interesting. Drive business solutions with tech innovation. So unlike the one above, the innovation is driving. The problems are solved by tech innovation. The first one is more about tech innovation and how do we use it. So that's different. This one is more about the business problem. So that tells me this is probably more IT leaning. And internal infrastructure, also IT. Automation. Okay, good. This is more operational or business operations potentially. Cybersecurity. Ooh, that's helpful. Person above doesn't reference security at all. So they're probably separated from that. Health tech, healthcare. Oh, that's an interesting. That tells me the industry they want to focus on or that they're in. Inspire high-performing teams. Note it doesn't say build. So I don't know if they build teams, but they're more likely to be leading them than building them. Building implies from nothing. Drive growth and ROI. ROI, so it might not be money, could be a lot of other things. And that makes sense with infrastructure and automation and security. Good, helpful, and with business operational things. Okay, so that's interesting. That's a different kind of person with a different skill set. I would think about them as leading different types of organizations. Now let's look at the last one. CTO, transformational DevOps leader. Okay, DevOps. People who double down on DevOps, talk about it. And so if you're interested in DevOps or your role requires that, and transformational DevOps, okay, let's keep going. Author and international speaker. That's interesting. That means he's got a reputation in the marketplace we can go look up. Cloud and modernization, or she, as the case may be. Cloud and modernization. Okay, so that tells me a lot about what they've done. The transformation is probably more modernization, not forward moving necessarily, but bringing into the present. Organizational design. Oh, that probably goes with DevOps. A lot of DevOps people are good at organizational design and structuring. Engineering and architecture. Oh, this is an engineer, not necessarily someone who came up engineering adjacent. Engineering and architecture tells me they probably still are hands-on a little bit. Builds high performance team. Again, building from nothing. Interesting. Delivers high ROI results. So not referencing growth or revenue so that's interesting. I would have to read further to know what kind of results they're getting, probably related to the organizational design. So this is more if my team needs to be renovated or if this area needs to be built. And I really think DevOps is going to help us, or I'm into that. And I'm thinking this thinking is going to be useful. Probably go for that last one, right? So you can see how they're all different now. I see something more about them. All right. There's a brief case study of someone, Beth, Senior VP of ITIS. Target's next job was CIO CTO. She was experienced. She had done the role, many parts of it without the title. That happens a lot. She had hired a resume writer, listed her achievements and contributions, thinking that would be enough. No interviews, no outreach, no roles, no right fit roles recommended. She was very frustrated. So again, no unique value proposition on that resume, no positioning statement derived from the unique value proposition. And that meant that she wasn't conveying in that short time frame that we have what sets her apart and makes obvious she's a good person to bring on. So we put together her UVP elements. We developed a clear and concise and cohesive positioning statement to assert this is what I offer, this is what I'm great at, this is what I enjoy, and this is the value I bring. And this is where I'll thrive, so that she could attract the right kinds of roles. We updated her resume and LinkedIn, and she introduced herself to recruiters and her network again in this way through their conversations, and she began getting her first full interviews with hiring managers for right fit, interesting and challenging roles at the right level. So let's talk about the third step, optimizing your job search by networking, interviewing, and negotiating your way to success. All right. The reality is I cannot possibly talk about all three of those. Now, I know in today's world, networking in this last month, networking has become even more important than ever. So I was reviewing my notes this morning. I decided that for anyone who has attended this event, I will also be giving you a new playbook I put together on networking for tech executives, and I will be sharing that with you along with the recording of this in the follow-up email that you get tomorrow. So I'm not skipping it. There's just no way I could talk about all of them. So I want you to have some skills and tools for that. I don't want to leave that overlooked. So you're going to get that also in the follow-up. So let's talk about the job interview piece, because that's a mistake that I see a lot of people make. Is this confusing good conversation with job interview mastery? Just because you have a personal connection with the interviewer and you seem to like each other and you enjoy the conversation, or they seem to enjoy it, that does not mean the interviewer found you to be the most qualified or capable for the role they want. This conversation is not about social connection. There's one goal of the interview on your end. That's to get to the offer, to get them to make an offer to you so that you can decide if that's the job you want. You don't need to make your final decision until after the offer. So they have to make a decision when they make you the offer, and then you have time between when you receive an offer and when you accept to get all your questions answered. So you can get some questions answered before, but you want to take the time you want to be in control. You want to be doing the evaluation. So you need mastery level interview skills to convince each interviewer that you talk to that you're the best choice for the job. Doesn't matter what level of experience you have, you will have phone interviews, HR screening interviews, hiring manager interviews, peer interviews, executive leadership interviews. You may be interviewed by the board, and you will also hopefully get to interview people who would be your team. That's a lot of people to convince that you're the best person. At each and every interview, you have to quickly form a trusted connection with the people interviewing you, and then you have to convince them you have the experience, skills, personality, and passion for the job. Only then are you going to get the offer. So what do you do? Well, let's talk about what I often hear. I just had a great interview. We really connected. We laughed. We shared stories. We had great rapport. And then the following week, I don't know what happened. The recruiter called and said they went a different way. Or worse, I got my email, or they just disappeared and I think they went with someone else. What went wrong? So I'm going to share with you the 6 indispensable elements of an executive interview strategy. So number 1, treat the interview like any other important meeting. This is not a test of your memory. You want to come fully prepared, having done your research, thought about what you want to talk about, and take notes. You want to treat it like a client meeting if you're used to having those. Come prepared, take notes, bring notes of important things you want to highlight. That's fine. Identify what each interviewer needs to know about you so you can provide the right information. So if it's what are their concerns, if it's hiring manager, what are likely their concerns if they're peers? You may identify some of this in advance by looking at their LinkedIn profiles, by getting a little heads up from the recruiter or someone who's involved in the hiring process. You may be able to do some research online and find them online and see what you need to know. You can also identify a bit, like if they're the hiring manager, what do they want? If they're a peer, what are they going to want? if there's someone who reports to you, what do they want? So that you can provide that information more easily, ready to tell them stories and give them examples of things that you can do that relate to what they are looking for. Prepare, so that gets to the next piece. You want to map out your compelling stories for every question you're asked. Now, sometimes you won't know the questions, but you can map out your key stories. Once you have your positioning statement, go through your work history, and for each job, identify your stories. You want to talk about, so think about the problems you solved, the things you initiated, the impact you had on the business, the results you generated. Also, what are some interesting things you had to deal with? Take that, combine that with some of the common interview questions people ask that are challenging, and then map out your stories to tell for everything so that you know what stories you're going to tell. They should connect with the bullets that are highlighted on your resume and what's highlighted on LinkedIn, what you highlight in your cover letter, so that you have a cohesive branding and story that will be easy for you to share. Establish trust and credibility in your first moments. The best way to do that, hands down, is to make sure you introduce yourself at or near the beginning of the interview by using your positioning statement as your introduction. Always start there. That is the best way to establish a connection, trust and credibility, and show that you are a leader who knows what you bring and knows how to handle yourself. The clients I've had who have done that get better results from the rest of the conversation because they're able to set the tone. Ask great questions. You wouldn't think you'd need to put this down here, or I didn't, only I had a few clients come to me and say, hey, I got this note from the recruiter to prepare for the interview, and look what it says. It was a vice presidential, I remember one example was a VP level role. Make sure you ask questions. The candidates aren't asking questions. You need to plan and ask questions. What results do you need to see in the first 30 days so that you know you hired the right person? That's a great question to ask. 30 days, that shows you understand that they're hiring someone to do something very specific and to get results, not just work. It's not about learning. It's about getting results, achieving something. That's what they're looking for. There's probably a problem to solve or a thing they want you to make progress on. Show you've done your research by asking questions. You're an executive now. You get to ask about the finances, the projects, the budgets, the teams. That's all fair game. Express interest, ask about next steps, and send a thank you note. So expressing interest, some people forget to tell the interviewer, I really want this role. This is really interesting to me. This looks exciting to me. Here's why I'd love to do this. If you don't tell them, they won't assume you want the role. Ask about next steps. Don't wait for the recruiter. Ask the people you're interviewing with. Hey, do you know where we go from here? What happens next? So that you can get a sense for when they're making a decision, how they're proceeding, and what's going to happen going forward. Your recruiter may tell you as well, but go ahead and ask. It shows interest. It's another way of expressing interest. Send a thank you note within 24 hours, and it is just as it's important to send a personalized, customized, we'll say, cover letter, you want to send customized thank you notes. They are the most effective. Show that you were listening in the conversation, and you can then connect the dots between the things you talked about and what you can bring to them. It's a great way to wrap things up and makes a much stronger impression than just, hey, thanks for the chat. I can make an impact. Be specific based on the conversations you've had. All right. I have a final story about Thomas, who was a VP of IT. He was targeting an operational role. He was landing interviews. That was not his problem. He had conversation after conversation. He felt connection. He thought he was a perfect fit, and then nothing would happen. And he was very worried and not sure what was going on, filled with self-doubt, confused. So we really worked on his branding statement introduction and how to get a spoken word version of that and a strategy for him that could put him in control of the interview. We crafted responses, we crafted his stories, and then he treated like these interviews now as important client meetings, and he followed up. The end result for Thomas was success. He had multiple offers, and today he's in a role that has moved his career to a whole new level. So let's sort of recap here. I'm going to take a breath, talk about or kind of review what we've talked about so far. 3 steps to land your right fit role. The executive job search mistakes I see people make over and over again, and the type of search that will get you to the offers and opportunity stage. Marketing strategies to dominate your search, and the interview strategy designed to secure offers. Here are some other clients who have worked with me and lovely things they've had to say. Not just lovely, but their successes. Caitlin was able to take that plan of action we developed and get on track, redefined and expressed and told her career story and made sure that her tools were aligned with that everything was synced up to get her to where she wanted to be. Diana was very similar. It really helped her identify she refers to it as her voice as a job seeker, making sure everything was clearly branded, showcased her value. And then Amy speaks to how, what are the things we do when I work with clients? Really, we're down in the weeds, and then we're stepping back and looking at long range vision and strategy. And I'm glad that she noticed that I was unreservedly in her corner, because I am in my client's corner no matter what. And so I hope that you feel that and see that as I'm talking to you, not to get you to come work with me, but so that you understand where all this information is coming from that I'm sharing with you. Okay, so I have a bonus step that I want to talk to you about, partnering with a coach. So coaching is the most scientifically proven way to maximize your results in anything. Everyone who's committed to getting an outcome should have a coach. I personally have several at a time, focused on different things. I have one who helps me with my mindset and my peak performance of myself as a person. I have one for business marketing, and I have one for my technologies. And so there's not one elite athlete, right, who doesn't have a coach. Why? Because that's how they get better. Coaching brings 4 things: accountability, new ideas, perspective, and support and reinforcement. And that has been my experience as well. Oops. So the question is, if you've been struggling, can you really succeed by doing the same things you're doing? No, of course not. That's why you're here. You're wanting to learn new things. So how can you get the same results as my clients? Well, one option, you could hire a resume writer, LinkedIn expert, leadership coach, career counselor, possibly even a therapist. That's an option. You could do what I did, become the expert yourself. I've spent many, many thousands of dollars to get certified in resume writing, coaching, all kinds of things. Also to study cutting edge leadership and peak performance strategies, in addition to the degrees I earned. And I've done well over 5,000 sessions, totally worth it, by the way, from my view. Or you can schedule a free conversation with me. And I can help you in just a few minutes of time to get on the right track. So you're unique. There is no way that I could have covered everything I wanted to or needed to, or make a one-size-fits-all blueprint here. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat here in case you would like to have this conversation with me. I go back. It's always so tricky. So on this call that I'm offering to you, which is about 30 to 45 minutes, we will talk about exactly how to get you motivated at the highest level. You'll get a detailed description of what you want. We're going to talk about a detailed description of what you want to achieve in your career. We're going to identify the blocks holding you back, and we're going to identify which strategic solutions will help you most so that you can walk away with an action plan. I've already helped tons of people just like you. The low-end value on this call is you'll be more motivated. You will know why you haven't landed your perfect fit role next, and you'll know the steps that you need to take next. And that alone is worth the price of admission, which is nothing other than your time. So if you happen to be a good fit, I will invite you to one of my coaching programs. I have several, and I only invite people to the ones that make sense for them. I work with a limited number of clients, and you have to meet certain criteria. And if you don't fit, I promise you, we can still show you how to fix a lot of the holes you've got. If you are a good fit, you may be given a chance to join. So the first thing I want you to do is schedule a call. And I dropped the link in the chat, so you can use that link and get time on my calendar. I am actually available the next couple of weeks. So I will be working around the Christmas and New Year's holiday, not on them. This could be the most valuable thing you do for your career. I've had countless people take advantage of these consultations, and every one of them gets information and support from this call itself. So I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to invite you to schedule now. And this is the link. So I may not have opened up enough time on my calendar. So as soon as we're done with this meeting, I will go out to my calendar and update that. So thank you for the time you've taken out of your day to listen to this and to watch this. It shows me that you're committed and you're interested. And my wish for you is that through applying the things that you may have learned today, that you are able to find and land the role that you really want and feel like you are in control of your career and that you are the one creating and finding opportunities and not waiting